Before I begin with V. Ganesan's account of Yogi Ramsuratkumar, I wanted to share my own experience. It was one day in May of 1996, while staying at Ramanasramam. I visited the ashram of the saint Yogi Ramsuratkumar. At the time, I was an immature seeker. I asked to see the master, but the ashram staff said that the saint was out and would return in 3 hours' time and receive me. I waited patiently in the courtyard. Several hours later, a car came through the ashram gate. The yogi saint clearly visible through the open window. Immediately, he turned to me in the courtyard with a beaming smile, his hands together in the traditional honoring formation Namaste, recognizing the God within. Several minutes later, a staff member came and advised me that the saint was not feeling well and would not receive me for darshan. I felt cheated, and the mind rebelled with fury against the outrage of it all. The story was, I waited 3 hours for nothing. In the coming months, on my return to the States, I told a few friends the story of my visit, framing it as a disaster. But over the years, I've come to see that I did in fact receive a potent darshan. Yogi Ramsuratkumar's smile has come to me many times, like a tinkling bell inside the heart, and it always brings me joy. Yogi Ramsuratkumar, V. Ganesan's account. Yogi Ramsuratkumar was born in a village near Kashi, Varanasi, in North India. He was fascinated by the sacred river Ganga and played along its banks, and it gave him an immense joy. Even as a young boy, he longed for the company of the many holy men who thronged to the Ganga Mata. His association with them ignited the spark of spirituality in his heart. Soon, this spark grew into a flame, an urge for inner peace. A seemingly ordinary incident, the death of a bird right in front of his eyes, drove home the message of life's transitory nature. One of the monks he met at that time specifically guided him, saying that his guru lived in South India. In due course, he went to the Himalayas, where he came across the book Light on Yoga by Sri Aurobindo. Inspired by the book, he went to Pondicherry in South India to meet Sri Aurobindo. He was disappointed when the darshan did not happen. A wandering sadhu on the beach there told him about a great Mahatma in nearby Tiruvannamalai who was accessible all 24 hours of the day. He came to Tiruvannamalai and had the glorious darshan of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. After drenching himself for a few months in the all-pervading grace of Sri Bhagavan at Ramanasramam, he went to the Himalayas once again. This time around, his heart was overflowing with the bliss of Sri Bhagavan's silence. With the passage of time, the divine fervor that he had experienced in Sri Bhagavan's powerful presence began to wane. So he returned to Sri Ramanasramam. But Sri Bhagavan had by that time dropped the body, and the absence of the physical presence of Sri Ramana Maharshi affected Yogi Ramsuratkumar very deeply. He expressed his anguish to the pundit T.K. Sundaresa Iyer, an old devotee of Sri Bhagavan. On expressing his need for a guru living in the body, TKS guided him to Swami Ramdas, living in Kerala. Swami Ramdas told him to chant the name of Lord Rama, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, continuously for 24 hours. In response, the yogi chanted it for 7 days uninterruptedly. This brought back his divine madness. Subsequently, he wandered all over India for 7 years, from 1952 to 1959. His spiritual journey culminated in his setting his feet again in holy Arunachala. Yogi Ramsuratkumar never claimed to be a guru. On the other hand, he would repeatedly say, "This beggar died in 1952 at the holy feet of his master, Swami Ramdas. Father alone exists now as this beggar." He said many other things, which I quote, "My Father alone exists, nothing else, nothing else. Past, present, future, only my Father, all pervasive, everywhere. In him, everything is included. Every object, man, animal, bird, tree or stone, all is nothing but my Father. Father has not given the work of teaching and preaching to this beggar. Father has given the work of preaching and teaching to Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Ramtirtha, Sri Aurobindo, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, and Swami Ramdas. Father has given this beggar only the work of alleviating the physical, mental, and spiritual suffering of the seekers. It is all only the Father. Father and Father alone. Yogi Ramsuratkumar and V. Ganesan. Several years back at this same venue, this was recorded in North Carolina, I covered Yogi Ramsuratkumar's life extensively. Those who are interested may go to the website. This time I feel we should concentrate on how Yogi Ramsurat helped spiritual aspirants to overcome their suffering. Yogiji's method of dissolving their suffering, pain, and problems was very unique. All of us know that the most difficult stumbling block to spiritual progress is the suffering that is inflicted by oneself, by others, or by circumstances. My long association with Yogi Ramsuratkumar of more than 40 years is studded with precious pearls of soul-melting incidents that reveal the extreme kindness, love, care, and compassion that Swamiji or Yogiji exuded. During the holy festival of Kartikai Deepam and the Maha Shivaratri, many visiting sadhus used to walk into the ashram office at Ramanasramam and perform the miracles, like producing images of gods and objects from nowhere. Though I did not know how these miracles were done, I was never impressed by them. Sri Bhagavan's assurance that all such miracles are comparable to incidents taking place in one's dream was my support. Lots of miracles happened around Yogi Ramsuratkumar too, but they were very different. they invariably happened to relieve people of their physical and mental suffering. But Yogiji never claimed that he did them. On the contrary, he would always insist, everything is happening by Father's grace. In some rare cases, when his prayers seemed to have failed, Yogiji would say that, too, Father, it was Father's will. Even if what they prayed for did not happen, people who came to Yogiji went away happy because of the love, compassion, and care that the sage poured unconditionally on them. Asking nothing of anybody and taking no credit for himself, one can only guess the enormous influence and help that he brought into the lives of innumerable persons. Once my spiritual companion Anuradha and I were searching for Yogiji inside the big temple. Suddenly we heard our names being called out loud. Ganesa, Radha. We turned and saw Yogiji seated on the inner steps of the Brahma Tirtham, a tank inside the temple, calling us to join him. Have you anything to say to this beggar? He said. We started telling him about some major problem at the ashram. Yogiji suddenly called out to a poor sadhu, Swami, Swami. The sadhu approached him with reluctance and with an attitude of indifference. Yogiji inquired after his broken arm. The sadhu gave a big account of how, despite all the various treatments, including one by a bone setter, the pain persisted. Yogiji looked at him with compassion and touched his hand with delicate tenderness. But the sadhu continued to ignore Yogiji. Yogiji asked Anuradha to bring water in his coconut shell and poured it on the sadhu's arm. He did this a few times. Even when it was going on, the sadhu continued to complain angrily about all those who couldn't heal his arm. And then Yogiji gently told him, Shake your arm, Swami. The sadhu did so and was surprised. The pain in his broken arm had vanished. Instantly realizing Yogiji's greatness, the sadhu fell prostrate at Yogiji's feet and thanked him. And what did the sage do? He gave the poor sadhu some money to have tea and snacks. Yet another time, Yogiji was seated near the Mangaza Maram, a tree inside the big temple, where we usually gathered around him. Swami was approached by a young couple with their year-old baby. Yogi's face lit up as he blessed the child, and the parents said, Swami, a few months ago we brought our baby to you and begged you to cure its bent and contorted leg. You blessed the baby, saying the leg would become all right. Now we ourselves do not remember which leg was bent, because the cure is so perfect. Raising his hands to the sky, Yogiji said, This beggar does nothing, Alma, Mother. It is all Father's glory. And Father alone blesses. Father alone cures. It is Father who protects all. Though he had brief periods of privacy, Yogiji was usually engaged in fielding a seamlessly endless stream of visitors who came for his darshan at his home or in the spacious flagstone courtyards of the big temple. Once, Mrs. Gangu, the wife of a retired major general, and belonging to a rich family, came with her son Vivek to the ashram to seek the blessing from Sri Bhagavan's shrine for the success of Vivek's soon-to-start advertising agency. After puja was done at Sri Bhagavan's shrine, she said that she had heard a lot about a saint living in Tiruvannamalai named Yogi Ramsuratkumar. She wondered whether they could meet with him. I took them to Saniti Street. Swami received them, saying, "What can this beggar do for Gangu Ma?" She showed Vivek and prayed for Swami's blessing on Vivek for his new advertising agency. Yogi Ji ignored him and asked, "Does Vivek have brothers and sisters?" She replied, "Yes, Swami, an elder sister. But Swami, what about Vivek?" Again, Yogi Ji ignored her and pleading and asked, "What is her name?" "Kalyani, Swami. But Swami, what about Vivek?" "Is she married?" He continued to ignore her. "She is married, Swami. But Vivek needs..." But no matter what, Yogi Ji persisted asking about the sister. "Where is your Kalyani? Tell this beggar, how is Kalyani now?" That broke the dam of resistance in Gangu Ma. She started crying profusely. "Swami, Kalyani is now living only with us in Mukhara. Her marriage was a failure. She was ill-treated by her husband's family. My husband and I tried our level best to patch up matters, but could not succeed. Her in-laws are stubborn." With abundant compassion, Yogi Ji said, "Amma, Kalyani should lead a happy life. This beggar pleads with you and your husband too. Please go again to them, apologize, make amends, make Kalyani live happily with her husband. Next time, you should bring the good news of Kalyani living with her husband to this beggar. Because Father's blessings are on Kalyani and on every member of your family." Gangu Ma did as told. Within a few months, she came back, this time with her husband, and gave the good news to Yogi Ji. And surprise of surprises, not only was Kalyani happily back with her husband, but she had conceived. Every member in her family was happy. When both the parents thanked Yogi Ji profusely, Swami raised his hands and said, "It is Father, Amma. Father alone blesses. This beggar does nothing. Father alone exists." Another time, I was seated alone with Swami. A worried-looking lady came and prostrated to him. It was obviously her first visit. Yogi Ji asked her, "What can this beggar do for you, Amma?" She replied, "Swami, I have come from a far-off place near Coimbatore. For the past 7 or 8 years, I have been trying without success to get my daughter married. It has been many years since her father passed away. I would like you to bless her so that she gets married soon." Yogi Ji asked, "What is the name of your daughter?" And she replied, "Kamala, Swami. We live in a very remote village, and life is very burdensome. Swami, if Kamala doesn't get married, I don't know what I will do." Yogi Ji was visibly moved. He went into silence. He then looked up, looked down, looked over the lady's head, all the time gesturing with raised hands. This went on for some time. Though the lady sat restlessly, there was a divine sight for me to see Yogiji go into a mystical ecstasy. I started offering prayers to Yogiji within my heart. Suddenly, Yogiji spoke. Alma, Kamala will get married on 7th February. And Father says everything will be all right and that the marriage will take place in a grand manner. He gave her fruits, and I could see that she was very pleased. The lady took leave and left, immensely satisfied and smiling widely. This was sometime in November or December. And on the next April, when I was seated with Yogiji, the same lady came in and happily prostrated. She said, I came to do puja in Arunachaleswara. After finishing, I hurried and came to prostrate to you, Swami. I am rushing to catch the bus. Yogiji looked at her with recognition and asked, How is Kamala, Alma? The lady answered, Kamala got married and is happy, Swami. When did the marriage take place, Alma? On 7th February, Swami. She was restless and in a hurry to rush out. Yogiji gave her fruits as prasad. After she went away, Yogiji turned to me and said, Look at this strange thing, Ganesa. People come and ask this beggar for favors. This beggar sends their prayers to Father. It is Father who answers their prayers, and not this beggar. When their prayer is fulfilled, they do not even have the courtesy to inform this beggar so. Does not the beggar have the responsibility to thank Father? What to do, Ganesa? It was then that I recollected what had happened on that day when Swami specifically told the lady that Kamala would get married on 7th February. And that was exactly what had happened. But a doubt rose in me, and I said, Did Swami, through his power, make it happen on that specified day? Or did he foresee that it would happen on that day? I put this doubt before Yogiji, and he said to me, Ganesa, have you read the works of Shakespeare? And I said, No, Swami. Antony and Cleopatra was a non-detailed text in college, except that I have not read any other works of Shakespeare. You have not read Othello? So you do not know in which act of the play Othello kills his wife? Now, this beggar has read it. This beggar therefore knows that in the 6th act, Othello kills his wife. That's all. Don't ask me any more questions, Ganesa. His answer surprised me and at the same time satisfied me. Yogiji then went into deep silence. To see him in that state was truly a divine sight indeed. He smiled and gave me prasad. One day I was seated in the presence of Yogiji, along with the famous music director Ilayaraja. No one was permitted to come in, though there was a large crowd waiting outside. Yogiji commented, They have all come to see this beggar, but to see the king is who they really have come for, the Raja, you. He asked the Ilayaraja to stand at the entrance and give darshan to the crowd and come back, which he did. After some time, Yogiji noticed a lady standing some distance away and hesitating to come closer. Yogiji looked at me and said, Ganesa, Agama is standing outside. Will you go and call her in? She was a sweeper, working at the ashram, though the society of those days treated her as a low-caste, untouchable woman. I had no hesitation in calling her in. She was reluctant, and so I went out and brought her in. I told her to prostrate to Swami, which she happily did. Yogiji asked her what she wanted. The Gama, with tears in her eyes, appealed to Yogiji to give protection to her family members. Yogiji made her sit in front of him and look steadily at her. It so happened that she sat near Ilaranja. Like a lightning flash, the scene took me years back to the experience that Balarama Redayar once had in the old hall in Sri Bhagavan's presence. Balarama had told me that one day when he entered the hall, he was wonderstruck to witness a ruler of a small state in North India and a retired old sweeper seated together. It was a festival day, and the hall was filled with devotees. But Balarama remembered a sloka in the great epic, the Ramayana, wherein King Rama was extolled with the words, "Lord Rama did not distinguish between a king and a low-caste person. His heart treated them all equally." Balarama Reddy concluded, "Sages come and live in our midst only to prove the import and truth of the ancient texts." How true it is. I too was witness to the same splendor in the presence of Yogi Ramsuratkumar that day. This, of course, was from my point of view. From Nagama's point of view, Yogiji instantly lifted and dissolved her sorrow, sadness, and suffering by making her sit, looking at her, and giving her his blessings and plenty of fruits as prasad. As I have narrated earlier, my good friend, the late S.P. Janarthan, bought a small printing machine from me and relieved me of my financial strain. He was also the owner of a huge printing press complex in Bangalore worth millions of rupees. The small machine cost only a few 100,000 rupees. His business partners and family members fiercely opposed of Janarthan buying the small machine as they had no use for it. Janarthanan responded firmly, saying, "Swami asked me to buy it and give relief to the grandnephew of his guru, Bhagavan Ramana. No one can ever stop me from obeying my guru. You say it will incur loss. Maybe. I ask you, does Guru's grace mean only profit and gain? Cannot the Guru's grace be also in the form of loss and strain? Guru's grace is supreme." Strangely, the name of the machine that he bought from me was Sri Ram. After a few months, there were riots in Bangalore. It was stirred by politicians, and it created a wedge of hatred and vengeance between the local Karnataka population and the Tamilians who had migrated there from Tamil Nadu. As a result, there was looting and arson of the Tamilians' properties. In that sad situation, Janarthanan's huge printing complex was totally burnt down. But the miracle of miracles was that Sri Ram was the only press untouched by the fire and in perfect condition. Not only that, but for the next 6 months, the period they had to wait for getting compensation from the insurance company, it was the Sri Ram machine which sustained the entire families of Janarthanan and his partners. There was yet another incident where Yogiji's grace helped Janarthanan in a financial crisis. Once, Janardhanan urgently needed a huge inflow of funds. A finance company in Chennai asked him to come for a discussion. When he reached Chennai, they told him to go back as they would be coming to Bangalore the next day. Janardhanan felt that as the transaction involved a huge amount of money, he would do better to go to Tiruvannamalai to get the blessing of Yogiji and take the night bus to reach Bangalore the next day. The close devotees of Yogiji who were permitted to stay with him in the night never did anything without Yogiji's permission and blessing. In keeping with this, Janardhanan did not utter a word about his plan, nor did Swami ask him. Before breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Swami would command Janardhanan to go to the nearby eateries and bring them both food to eat. 1 day passed, 2 days passed. On the third day, there arose a thought in Janardhanan that the financial company visiting Bangalore. What about it, he wondered. That day, after lunch, Yogiji looked sternly at Janardhanan for some time. Suddenly, Yogiji roared, "Janardha! 1, 2, 3, stand up, run to the door, go back to Bangalore." Janardhanan literally ran to the door. Again a roar, "Stop, Janardhanan! Look at your watch and tell me the time." Janardhanan said, "Swami, it is 1:23 p.m. "Yes, Janardhanan, it is 1, 2, 3. Father blesses you." When he reached Bangalore, Janardhanan received an apology from the financial company as they could not come to Bangalore as scheduled. However, they had arrived at an unanimous decision to sanction the full amount needed by him, even without any form of security or surety of return. Janardhanan later said, "It was nothing but Yogiji's grace, as the company has never released money without documents and securities. Swami detained me, poured his blessings on me, and also helped me financially." The darshan of Yogiji was always an informal affair. Clutching a worn coconut shell, begging bowl, and palm leaf fan in one hand, the other raised high in benediction. Yogiji was brisk, even businesslike. The deep sensitivity, empathy, and compassion radiating from this angelic figure is matched only by the trust, admiration, and sheer reverence of the supplicants, that is, the many families, mendicants, farmers, professionals, children, and businessmen. While some are content with paying their respects, others relate their problems and wait for answers. One day, an old village lady came to Yogiji. She looked like a beggar woman. Swami was very kind to her, received her, and made her sit in front of me. "Alma," he said, "you have come to visit the temple." No, Swami, I came only to see you." "Govinda Swami's marriage has to take place, Swami." Yogiji smilingly asked her, "Who is Govinda Swami?" "He is my son, Swami. I came all the way from Ceylon to see you and appeal to you to make the marriage of Govinda Swami happen." "Is he your only son? What is he doing?" "Govinda Swami is my 6th son, Swami. He is a night watchman in a company." "What is his age?" "He is 36 years old. Govinda Swami should get married, Swami." At that time, Yogiji turned to me and said, "Look at her, Ganesa. What love a mother has for her son. What deep love." Swami was emotionally moved and his voice was choked. Alma, he said, do you ever go to any temple and offer prayers? No, Swami, I would not be permitted. Govinda Swami should get married. Are you staying with your children? No, Swami, all the 6 sons drove me out, and I am begging in the streets and sleeping in a montop where no one stays. Do you offer worship to any god? No, Swami, I do not know any god. But Yogiji persisted. In the montop where you sleep, there should be some image of God on one of the pillars. Have you noticed any? Oh, yes, Swami, but I do not know what God it is. If you light an oil lamp every night at that pillar for 36 days, Govinda Swami will surely get married, Yogiji assured her. The lady excitedly got up and said, Swami, I shall leave for Salam right away and start lighting the oil lamp from this evening itself. Yogiji compassionately asked her, Alma, do you have money for your return journey? The lady replied, I have a few rupees, Swami, but not enough for the bus fare. Shall I give you? But before Yogi could finish his sentence, she interjected, No. I am confident I can somehow get the balance amount by begging at the local bus stand. I cannot accept money from you, Swami. But please bless Govinda Swami so that he gets married soon. Yogiji thrust some fruits into her hands as prasad. As she hurried out, she added, I start lighting the lamp for 36 days from this evening, as I am very eager to see Govinda Swami married at the earliest possible. Yogiji was all smiles. Ganesa, this is a true love of a mother. Can anything equal a mother's love? Father's blessings on her and on Govinda Swami. Father blesses them both. He raised both his hands and happily turned them towards the direction in which the lady disappeared. There was a wealthy couple, Riaz Padmansi and Baraz Padmansi, from Bombay. They had a lucrative business in America. They were staunch devotees of Sri Bhagavan and had come to Arunachala from the United States for a few days. I took them to Yogiji. It was their 3rd visit to Yogiji. The lady asked Yogiji, Swami, can I express a very personal anguish of mine? Yes, tell this beggar. My mother-in-law wants me to give her a grandson, as there are no male descendants in the family. I am 40 years old and a mother of 2 daughters. The doctors in America have strictly advised me against having another child because of medical complications. But the mother-in-law insists on it. Looking intently at her, Yogiji raised both his hands and said, Father says there is no problem in your getting a son. So, without hesitation, conceive. The couple was overjoyed and returned to the United States. A few months later, I got a call from this lady. She was very pious, and sadly she told me, Ganesan, in obedience to Yogiji's command, I conceived, much to the displeasure of my doctors. And sure enough, a miscarriage took place. I am in intense sorrow. Will you please inform Swami and get me his blessings? When I reported this to Yogiji, he firmly said, Father says there is a son. Father's blessings are fully on her. Assure her. She conceived again. Most unfortunately, this time, too, there was a miscarriage. The doctors were furious with her. She called me in a state of panic. I ran to Yogiji. Strangely, Yogiji, too, expressed anger. What? Father says there is a son for her. Where is the room for doubting? This time I got jittery. How to convey this message to a lady who was so deeply affected? Praying to Yogiji in my heart, I relayed the message. For several months, I did not hear anything from her. After more than a year, I finally got a call. It was from her. She joyously told me that she had given birth to a baby boy, and both she and her son were in good health. I reported it to Yogiji. Now that baby boy has completed his college education. When I was sent to live for a year in Kashi by Yogiji, he was very specific that I should not write to anyone else except him. That was the period when Yogiji was not talking directly to Anuradha, though she went regularly to sit silently in his presence. I was writing often to Yogiji, but not at all to Anuradha. She got worried about me and wanted to know how I was faring in Kashi. She went to Yogiji and prayed silently to him to give her news about me. Within a short time, a young couple came from Chennai, carrying with them a tiffin carrier filled with lunch that they had prepared that morning exclusively for Yogiji. Though they were well known to the Swami, he inquired, "May I know your names?" The gentleman replied, "My name is Ganesan, and my wife's name is Ganga." "Swami, she takes good care of me, as advised by you." The yogi burst out laughing. "So Ganga is taking good care of Ganesa?" "Oh, Ganesa is being well taken care of by Ganga Ma." "Yes, indeed. At that time I was well taken care of by Krishnamurti Foundation of India in Varanasi, on the banks of the Ganges. Moreover, Mother Ganga had blessed me by initiating me into a mantra. Once, when he was in Chennai, the Raja Ilalya got some excellent good apples from Kashmir. He rushed to Arunachala with a basketful of these apples. We both went early in the morning with the basket to Yogiji. After graciously receiving the basket and making us sit with him for half an hour, he sent us away, saying, "Ganesa will have the ashram office work. He has to go. Let us take leave, friends." He gave us 2 apples each and told us to go back to the ashram. It was 7:30 a.m. My office work commenced at 9 o'clock, and my assistant, Anuradha, would report promptly at 9:30. When, after doing Giri Pradakshina, the circumambulation of Arunachala, with Yana Sundari and prostrating at Sri Bhagavan's shrine, Anuradha entered the office. She saw the Kashmir apples on my table. I said that I got them from Swami and that one of them was meant for her. She refused to accept it, saying, "I go round the holy hill, accompanied by somebody or the other almost every day. Today also, while we reached the big temple, both of us felt like going to Yogiji's house, prostrating to him and seeking his blessings. He blessed us and gave us a banana each as prasad. You both casually visit him. You get good Kashmir apples, because you are the grandnephew of Sri Bhagavan, and you are running the ashram. And Ilayaraja, well, he is very famous in the music field. Well, Yana Sundarai and I are just ordinary folks. So we get only the humble local bananas. Is it fair? I was aghast since I knew Anuradha didn't even like apples. I reminded her that Swami was hearing everything that was being talked about him and that she was making a very unfair comment. She left for her home. It was just across the road in order to get for the office in a hurry. When she reported for work in the office at 9:30, I came to know from her that the Jaya Raman, a devotee of Yogiji who worked in the local office, came to the Savitri with a sense of urgency, as it was time for him to be at his office. Hurriedly placing an especially fine specimen of cashmere apple in her hand, he told her, "Swami called me at 8 o'clock and gave this apple and told me that I should hand it over to you. He also insisted that I should not go to the office before giving you this apple." That evening, I pleaded with Anuradha that we should go to Yogiji and she should thank him for sending her the apple. Her sisters, too, had arrived from Chennai and were eager to meet Yogiji and receive his blessings. And so off we went in a group. Swami appeared to be in a serious mood. There was already a small crowd waiting outside. He opened the door, stood at the entrance, and, as was usual for him, gave specific directions as to who should sit where. Anuradha was seated in her place, and her sisters were seated next to her. He turned to me and said very sternly, "Thambi, boy, you stand at the entrance and allow the visitors who come, one by one, inside." So, happily I stood guard. He went and sat in his place. Anuradha's sisters had brought bananas. Swami distributed a banana each to everyone seated except me. He also ordered them to eat it. Then he called me and said, "Thambi, boy, collect the banana peels from everyone and throw them out." I did as he bid and was about to throw the peels out when he roared, "Thambi, you should not throw them near the house. You have to take them and throw them in the big waste bin kept there by the roadside." Noticing all that was taking place, Anuradha felt that Swami knew everything that had happened earlier and was demonstrating to her that he had no partiality. At that time, I was the de facto chief of the ashram, and yet Yogiji was treating me like an ordinary office boy or servant, while the crowd there was watching it. The moment Anuradha mentally apologized to Yogiji, immediately there was a complete change in him. He turned to me and said, "Ganesan, come and sit down in your usual place." Then, laughing uproariously, he gave me a few blows on my back. And when Anuradha stood up and prostrated him, Yogiji bent over and gave her a few blows on the back of the prostrating Anuradha as well. What a sound blessing it was. Now, let me share with you how this incomparable Siddha Purusha, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, helped me to transcend the two major hurdles of body and mind in my spiritual sadhana. For 38 years, Yogi Ramsuratkumar had lived and played the role of a homeless beggar with the panache of a carefree millionaire. Swami, as he was affectionately called, was well known, not only in Tamil Nadu, but also farther afield in India and abroad, sometimes in the most unexpected quarters. The gentleness of his speech in English, Tamil, and Hindi belied the force of his personality. And he gave freely of his life essence. If the gift was undervalued by the sophisticated, it was only because Yogiji was offering fruit of his hard-earned experience for a price far less than what he himself had paid. However, for the unlettered soul, this process of give and take was an uncomplicated exchange. I was 23 years old when I came to stay at Sri Ramanasramam. For more than 30 years of my stay inside the ashram, I had the unique privilege of associating myself very closely with all the old devotees of Sri Bhagavan that were still living. They guided me, not by preaching to me, but by their exemplary living. Until the age of 50, I was treated and nurtured like the child of the ashram. I was even fondly addressed by the old devotees as Kuzhandai Swami, meaning child Swami. But it was Yogi Ramsurat who commenced my ashram life in 1959 when the pundit T.K. Sundaresa Iyer drew my attention to the presence and greatness of this Siddha Purusha. He was also Yogiji who wrote the closing chapters of my ashram life, by truly guiding me and molding my life with specific spiritual instructions. I share the following moving incident with a surrendered heart and with an overwhelming sense of profound gratitude to Yogiji. The eventful day when my friend Anuradha took me to Yogi Ramsuratkumar was marked as a milestone in my spiritual life. My life took a U-turn on that day. I have dealt in detail about this in the other book I've written, Ramana Periya Puranam. This is how Yogiji's powerful guidance affected me. Swami, Ganesan is going through a lot of stress with the printing press issue, and he wants to commit suicide. Anuradha blurted this out with pain to Yogiji. But it came to the response from him. It was, Ganesa, what did our master Bhagavan Ramana teach us? You have to inquire into the source of thoughts and kill the mind and not the body. The body has served you well all these years. Why take it out on the body? I felt cornered and murmured, let me then run away from Arunachala. With a spark of inquisitiveness in his eyes, Yogiji asked me, where will you go if you leave Arunachala? Without taking time to think, I spontaneously replied, to Kashi, Swami. Seizing the opportunity, Yogiji asked me with intense enthusiasm, will you promise to go to Kashi if the problem is solved? I expressed full consent. As assured, I spent a whole year in 1988 and 89 very peacefully at the Krishnamurti Foundation of India in Rajghat, Varanasi, the sacred land where Mother Ganga flows. When I returned to Arunachala after that serene period, I noticed a marked change in me. I had developed an attitude of detachment to managing the ashram. Meanwhile, my younger brother Mani was managing the ashram as its administrator. On my arrival, however, Yogiji sent me to Mataji Krishnabai, as she was on her deathbed. Mataji blessed me profusely and made me stay with her for 2 months in her peaceful presence. After those 2 months of spiritual bliss, when I tried to settle down again at the ashram, a thunderbolt hit me out of the blue. Someone had sent an anonymous letter to all my close and respected friends, which included Swamijis of different ashrams, in which I was accused of various misdeeds and abused roundly. This totally disturbed my mental poise. An ashram worker took me to Yogiji. After listening to all the details, Yogiji said, This is pure poison. Our Lord Shiva became immortal by swallowing poison. You too have to do it. Swallow this poison, Ganesa. This beggar is with you. He held my hand with deep affection throughout the time he spent with me. He got a cup of tea, covered it up with his hand for a long time, and then made me drink it. His words, his touch, and his overflowing love quieted my agitated mind. I returned to the ashram with a clear heart, with an attitude of indifference to whatever happened in and around me, and determined to serve the ashram no matter what. Yet after a few days, I had to face much bigger and deeper attacks. I started receiving letters of disapproval and reprimand from reputed people. My mind was so deeply disturbed that I ran to Yogi Ji again, taking with me all those letters. After listening to the details, Yogi Ji said, "You remember, this beggar requested you a few days back to swallow the poison. You were kind enough to oblige this beggar. Now, this beggar begs of you, Ganesa, to digest the poison. Digest it. Father's blessings are fully on you." He held my hand for 2 full hours. All the while I was shedding tears. I appealed to him again that I was still deeply upset and disturbed. Yogi Ji replied, "Adverse situations do afflict sadhakas, spiritual aspirants. Lot of the insults are hurried upon them. Our ancient works, like the Periya Puranam, abound with such stories, and how when they patiently bore all of these, Lord Shiva blessed them and merged them with himself." Yogi Ji continued his tender and affectionate attention on me and added, "You are not the mind, Ganesa. Mind is only a phantom. It is only a bundle of thoughts. Our master, Bhagavan Ramana, guided us to only inquire into the source of thoughts and not to entertain the mind's wandering. There is no mind at all, no thoughts. Inquire and it will disappear. Release yourself from the clutches of the mind. You are never the mind, Ganesa." It is an amazing fact that using the pretext of my press problem, Yogi Ji piled many trials and tribulations on me, and it was he himself who removed them all, then guided me to leave the ashram and settle down in my house, Ananda Ramana. He was and ever is the God who creates and removes obstacles. Indeed, it was Yogi Ji who helped me release myself, free myself from the bondage to my body and mind. I became calm, like a clean slate. It was Yogi Ji who also helped me to settle down at Ananda Ramana. While I was still in the ashram, he would come early in the morning, take me to Ananda Ramana, the hut where Ganesan now lives, and give me exclusive satsang the entire day. On all those occasions, Yogi Ji would insist on taking Anirada too with us to Ananda Ramana. He would tell her, "Ganesa needs help and protection. Let us extend it to him." Soon, Yogi Ji started bringing famous and reputed persons, even the daughter-in-law of a newspaper magnate, famous artists, along with him to spend the whole day. Sometimes he would even spend 2 or 3 days at a stretch in Ananda Ramana. He got me accustomed to living alone at Ananda Ramana. He himself loved Ananda Ramana. He adored its serenity and kept commenting on how the air there was unpolluted, how the water in the well was like the holy Ganga, and how the birds in the garden were always singing. The way he would pick up a flower, inhale its fragrance, hold it over his eyes, then his heart, and ask Ma Devakai to make a garland, and then enjoy wearing it around his neck, was always a divine sight. He would make me read passages from Sri Bhagavan's talks with Ramana, day by day with Ramana, and letters, and would pointedly draw my attention to Sri Bhagavan's famous declaration where he said, "The only purpose of life is to realize the self. All other activities are a waste of time." To stay with Yogi Ji at Ananda Ramana was a true spiritual experience indeed. Yogi Ramsuratkumar not only guided me spiritually, but also, since I was very naive in matters of the world, he guided Anuradha to take care of me and attend to my mundane needs and activities. He fully approved of her building a house, Anandavana, right behind Ananda Ramana, for her son, Sankar. He even insisted on her staying in it for the exclusive purpose of pursuing her spiritual sadhana, and more especially for taking care of me. Soon Yogi Ji started building his own ashram. As was his wont, he was intensely involved in it. Whenever I went and stood in front of him, he would say, "Ganesa, we have spent a lot of time together. Go back to Ananda Ramana and put Sri Bhagavan's teachings into practice all the time." It was Yogi Ji's constant prodding to share the teaching and put it into continuous practice that reshaped my spiritual life. There was always the grace of Sri Bhagavan and the blessings of the old devotees. But it was Yogi Ramsuratkumar who molded my life in many ways. All the traveling and sharing I have done on Sri Bhagavan's teachings in the United States and elsewhere was done on Yogi Ji's instructions. He said, "Wherever you go, Ganesa, this beggar is always with you." And he blessed me one day, saying, "For everyone else, God is everywhere. But for Ganesa, God is only at Ananda Ramana." Thank you, Swamiji. Repeated prostrations at your feet from this child of yours.